Welcome back, everyone. It's August 27th, 2026, and today, filmmakers by and large are still in the closet, so to speak, when it comes to talking about generative AI. But secretly behind the scenes, Hollywood and much of the creative community has been at least experimenting with testing generative AI. And today, we're going to talk to someone who has come out of the proverbial closet, someone with a deep film background that's worked on major television shows that you and I have probably both watched, and is unique as a self-proclaimed unicorn, is in a unique position where he's actually fully embraced generative AI from the coding side, from the generative media side, and is willing to talk about it with their real name and their face. And they've put out some incredible work. I found them on X, where they were releasing, like, it seemed daily, a new AI filmmaking tool that in the past I would have sold. Companies are still selling today. He was just making them in Codex or Claude Code, whatever one he uses, I forget, and making them freely available. And these are like fully functional tools that he was using for his productions. So it is my honor, my pleasure to talk today with Sam Wasserman. Let's get into it. So I looked you up on IMDb, on LinkedIn. I would love to know more about your like traditional, filmmaking background. You've done so much, but could you take us through, your background?
Yeah, for sure. And first of all, thanks for having me on. I loved the ones that I've seen so far, by the way. You're doing a great pod. So yeah, I mean, film and storytelling has been the love of my life since I was like 3 or 4. I mean, it really has always been my world. It's like ever since I was a little kid, all I wanted to do was direct movies, tell stories, and I eventually had a, career for over 25, 26 years in the traditional industry, everything from directing to producing, some writing, mostly directing and producing for TV, film, music videos, and commercials.
And where were you? What area? Was this LA?
Yeah, in LA, but I traveled all over. So, I mean, I was born and raised in LA. A lot of the work was in LA, but there were years where I was on like 100 planes a year traveling for shows. Wow. And I was like basically living in a suitcase. And so I went probably all over the US and part of the world for different projects. But yeah, I mean, I did everything from narrative in like the studio system to unscripted, like high-end documentary, to reality, to kind of music concert film docu, to music videos, and then scripted narrative commercials. So really kind of ran the gamut of all of that before I really geared fully into AI and just fell in love with the creativity you could do through that.
Nice. And I'm kind of a gearhead. You're not like a DP. I'm like a former DP. So I'm like thinking like, I think of like creative eras with cameras. I don't know if you associate that.
No, look, I know I'm super geeky in that way. You could talk shop with me about that, or about hardware of computers too. So.
Oh yeah. There's so much to dig into. Before we jump into the AI side of things, did you see The Odyssey yet?
I did. It's actually the second, maybe 2 movies I've seen in like a year or year and a half, because I have a young son who was born just a little bit ago. And so between work and AI and family, it's like impossible. But like my whole life going to the movie theater has been like my favorite pastime ever. And so, yeah, this year I maybe saw 2 movies. I saw, was it Obsession? Is that the?
Yeah.
I saw that and I saw The Odyssey.
Yeah. Nice. Did you see it in the 70 mil IMAX?
I did. Yeah.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun. Did you?
No, I did. So like near me, like the closest like I'm in like Boston, I believe.
Oh, I thought you were in San Francisco.
You would think, yeah. A lot of people think I'm in LA or San Fran, but I'm actually based in Boston, and so for me, there's no real 70 mil. I think the closest one's like an hour and a half away, and it's like I'm not gonna.
That is not. I mean, it's like a 3 or 3.5 hour movie and an hour and a half drive both way. I mean, that's a 7-hour ordeal for you.
Yeah, I mean, I would consider it's probably worth, but I have kids now. Yeah. My oldest is 13, and so he wanted to go see it with his friends, and so I was the chaperone. And that's really we saw a lot of movies this year, but like that's the way I justify seeing movies is like I was like, oh, okay, the kids want to go.
I can't wait until my son is old enough that I can go see movies with him.
Yeah, it justifies it. It's like worth the trip and all the candy and whatnot. So yeah, I saw it in like regular, but it was still like still incredible. And like there was a second where someone leaked the entire film on X. Did you see that? I feel like you're on X as much as I am.
I'm on all the time, but I didn't see that.
Yeah, someone leaked
It would
like
be
the
horrible
entire
to see that movie on a small like X screen.
I'm not gonna lie, I watched the first like minute of it, and then it got taken down mid watching it.
Got it.
But I had the entire movie basically spoiled because I was like just kind of interested in it and watched commentary on it, but it was still good. I really enjoyed it. How about you?
I did. Look, I didn't love everything about it, but I will say I was very impressed, and I enjoyed myself a lot at the theater. It's funny, I really wasn't liking it for the first 15 or 20 minutes, and I thought I was going to hate it. And then somehow it caught on with me, and I really enjoyed it. So once it got past kind of the part of the first act, then I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, for some reason, I'm like a sucker for melodrama, I guess. I'm probably like less. I haven't produced as much of it as you have and directed it, so like maybe to me, I'm still kind of I'm just like taken in by it. I don't know, but I liked Anne Hathaway's character, and like the part where she like slaps him. Oh, this is a spoiler. She like slaps him and like it does like the bow sound in the background. I was like, okay. I'm like,
I really loved the witch scene. I mean, that was awesome.
Yeah, and I've been seeing like the behind the scenes of it with like the practical like head pig people and stuff like that. It's been fun, and I saw it on X. And speaking of X, this is where I first discovered your work.
Sure.
And I think, I'm very interested in like kind of the open source filmmaking apps you've been doing and the AI work in general. But I'm interested. When did you first start like integrating AI into your work? Because people who come from traditional film, there is this coming out of the closet. There's this boundary we must cross.
I don't know if you saw the post that I made this week and what happened, but
was it about the Rick Rubin one?
Yeah.
We'll get to that one.
I don't even want to discuss that thing on here, but I will say, really? Obviously it's like 1.5 million people like went bonkers, but yes, I mean, it's only to your point is it's a pretty touchy subject, at this moment. And I will say, I think I'm kind of not the unicorn, but kind of a unicorn in the sense that I feel like at least up until this point, you've had a few different types of people. You have traditional film and storytellers who are like FAI, right? Okay, so that's one category. Then
what's
you have
FAI?
people,
I need to be updated. What is that?
Oh, I was just saying fuck AI.
Oh, FAI. I see. I was okay. I get it. Yes.
Yeah, so you have like that group, and then you have people who maybe are not from the traditional side of things at all, who are like all in on AI, but don't have that, history of making films. And I feel like I'm like in the middle because, I have the traditional and I absolutely love all of these tools in AI. And so I'm not dragging my feet. I'm also not giving up traditional. And it's kind of a rare thing.
It is. This is August 25th, 2026. It is still rare. It is. I just saw this article on like Ankler or something like that, where they were talking about, all these like secret Hollywood meetings that happen, and people are still like, they're like, all these meetings happen. They've come out with this new like human generative workflows or something like that, but still no one's name mentioned. No one will put their name out.
Yeah, I mean, Runway did that deal with Lionsgate or whatever, but like the truth is, I think very much what's happening is I think Hollywood doesn't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're going to do. They're scrambling. They're very worried about the PC kind of backlash. However, they can't worry about it so much without potentially realizing that this is going to push forward. And so I think they're in this weird thing because they're not committing, but they're secretly kind of moving towards it. But eventually they're going to come around. I think it's going to be the same thing as like what happened with, digital cinema or electronic music or even direct to, DVD or video on demand or Netflix. It's just all these things. There's a lot of hatred at first. There will still be some, but people will come. I just do believe it's going to be here. It's going to be a new world. You're going to accept it, and it's going to be part of everything. Answer your question, though, when I first got into the AI side of it, really was pretty early on. I mean, I don't know, when did the first kind of good ChatGPT came out, 2022?
I wasn't there for it, but yeah.
So I think, was really interested in it then. Obviously, generative video and image models weren't really around or very good. You did end up having DALL-E at first, but it was like, honestly, compared to what I was doing professional, I was like, this is useless. You know, it was
Yeah.
like, and so I really started just dabbling in the AI stuff like 2022 and a little bit 2023. And then 2024 through today has been like, I basically stopped a lot of full time on the traditional side and was like, I'm going to shift, not fully shift careers, but like parallel, you know.
Hmm.
And I was like, I'm going to learn this tech the best that I can without going back to school. I'm going to watch every video, every tough tutorial, every podcast all day, all night. And I did that. And I took a bunch of courses and like got certified in things. And I basically, every time a model came out, whether it was generative or whether it was just a, you know, general LLM or even local models, I literally just went and I started experimenting with it. And so I think when I got really into the video filmmaking stuff was when VO3 came out, you know,
Yep.
from
Yep.
Google.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I was doing stuff prior to that, but VO3 to me was like the breakthrough where, yes, it was not at the quality that you have today. It's not the quality that eventually we will have. But for me, I immediately knew, having been around long enough, I saw the writing on the wall. It was like, okay, well, if it's there, I'm in, and I got to start now. So that's when I really got fully in. And I would say, obviously, then with, you know, Seed Dance 2.0, and now like Flux 3 and those, it was just a game changer. But it's been a couple years like full time for me.
Nice. VO3 was my like, I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, that is pretty passable. So when you were doing early LLM stuff, because I know you're kind of like on the more director side, were you using it like for film early on, like playing with like script writing with it, like giving it ideas and whatnot? Like what was the
Not
idea with
really.
early GPT?
I was not wanting to do that nor interested. Now I did do it just as like a, what could this do? Because it was just so crazy and different, right? So
Yeah,
I was
like write me a limerick or something.
yeah, I mean, no,
before
I
you
more
publish
was
it.
like, oh, it can write a script. Obviously, I'm not expecting it to be good, but I was like, I have a
Just to
German
see it.
Shepherd, loves chicken. I was like, tell me the story about my German Shepherd who's every day trying to catch this one squirrel on the fence and then gets like something stupid. And I was just
What's
like,
the
what can
dog's?
it do?
What's your dog's name?
Coda.
Coda's AI. I want to see Coda's AI script.
I don't even know if I still have it. This was like 2022. But anyway, so I saw that and I was like, all right, the structure actually was impressive in terms of it understood the beginning, middle, and end. It actually understood a lot of like the classic structural for like
Yeah.
a TV pilot and stuff. The heart of it was trash.
Sure.
But it did have a few funny lines. But what I saw at least then was I was like, oh, what this could help is maybe a draft if I gave it tons of specific details from me, like all my notes and my outlines and my cards. I was like, it may help to do that thing that's hard, which is just getting that first throw up draft, which is what you do in real life, right? Is like, it's hardest, I feel, to get that first draft out. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to rip apart 90% of it. But even just having something physically there, that said, I don't really use AI so much for writing or that stuff. It just isn't, I think maybe I'm stuck in the old way. But I really started with AI doing all sorts of other stuff in life, like, you know, that wasn't filmmaking besides VO3. And then it kind of came full circle to when AI agents got really good and I got like full on with that. That's when I started bringing it into the filmmaking again.
So, you know, based on your background, right? Like you wouldn't necessarily say you have like a developer background, but when I first started seeing your stuff on X, it was like, oh, like someone's like releasing like cool new like AI filmmaking tools. So can you talk about when did you start, you know, using coding agents and making filmmaking tools?
So coding agents I started using like maybe it was 2023. I mean, I started pretty early. Obviously they weren't great, but they were, again, I can see the writing on the wall. So I was like, let me jump in early, even though it would fail. I will say though, like when OpenClock came out, like I think January 24 of this year is when like, in terms of like agents, I basically 7 days a week, 24/7 was in that world, and then went to Hermes and then built more stuff with Codex and have like a full orchestration of agents. But really what I did was, you know, I started working with Claude Code, started working with Codex, did some with Lovable, with Replit.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So you I haven't done any of the local agent stuff at all, so I'm interested to hear about that. But like, so for example, like if we went to your GitHub, what's like your favorite project that you, because like, you put out a bunch, right? Is it fair to say you put out like a lot of tools?
Yeah, I did, and kind of over a very short. I had like a few weeks where I went like wild. Like I think I
That's where
released like
that's when I first
I
saw
think
you.
I
was
released
yeah.
like 10 full softwares in like 2.5 weeks or something.
that's
Uh,
that's
but to answer
unprecedented.
your question, how that happened was kind of how everything in my life has happened when I find a project or build something, which is it had to solve a problem for me. So basically, I wasn't like, oh, let me build people software or even let me build software. I was just finding it frustrating when I would hit certain walls with my projects or ideas of what I felt I could use. I would bring it up to some of the big companies because I have, I'm in some of their creative partner program, those things. I'll give feedback. And while I love all the companies, none of them like took the ideas. And I was like, okay, well, I'm hitting a wall here creatively. For example, traditionally, I'm sure you know this, but you need stems if you want to really edit something, whether it's music or a movie, meaning separated audio elements, right? So like
Right.
sound effects needs to be its separate stem. Music needs to be a separate stem. Dialogue a separate stem. If you go into Seed Dance or anything, they just marry them, right? So you have one track. Well, that's fine when you're playing around, but if you want to really have control creatively, and definitely if you ever want to deliver professionally, you need stems. So I started asking, I'm like, hey, can you guys create something so we can download isolated stems? And they were like, what stems? I was like, okay, well, all right. So one day I was just frustrated kind of trying to create this. I was like, it's been a month of me telling every major generator like this idea. And I was like, can I just build it? Like Fable 5 had just come out. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, let me see if I can do this. So it's like, yeah, we can do it. I'm like, okay. And so we just iterated back and forth and built it while I'm working on something else. And then I went back and forth, gave notes, and I tried it and I was like, sweet, now if Seed Dance gives me music, I can just rip it out. And I decided, I was like, okay, well, I didn't mean to made this to solve my problem, but this could solve a problem for a lot of people, right? And I was like, do I try to charge or put this out or not? And I was like, no, I love open source. I'm big behind it. And I was like, I just think we're in a new era where, first of all, I just don't think you're going to have usually that much success doing it that way unless you have something so specific, right? Because anybody can go and just rip that. The amount of time it would take to put it out there is hard. But I more was like, let me just put it out there. So I did. And then the next day I had an issue, came up with another thing. The next day. So it's just all these things that I was hitting walls. I was like, I got inspired and I was like, what else can I create? And then I started filling it in and just releasing it. So that's kind of how it happened. Is it really started with, I felt something was missing. Nobody else wanted to do it when I gave them the ideas. So I was like, I'll just go do it myself. And then let me put it out to others because if I could use it, they probably want to use it too.
Yeah, that's incredible. So this is on like your GitHub. Have you continued to work on it, or is this kind of like one big like?
No, I have. I think there's a few
inspiration?
stuff I did in the last few weeks and stuff, but for the most part, now I've just been slammed on some other projects, and I got a little burned out. I mean, it was like, and also, it's kind of how I've always been with anything work-wise and even creatively. Is like, I don't want to make stuff just to make it if I'm putting it out, like. And I'm not saying these are like the greatest apps or anything, but like they definitely served a purpose. I was proud of them. I think they're good enough, right? But I don't want to just because I make something else and then it's trash. So it's like, unless I have an idea that I'm excited about and I don't really have a new, like I kind of just covered it. So like if something comes up, I'll make it. But for right now, I'm not going to make something just to do it because then I feel like it's like, what's the point?
Yeah, I was Fable maxing it like the same time. I mean, it's part of my job to do it and make content about it. But I was like, oh, let me show how you make like a web app.
Sure.
With like like a fall wrapper. It's like you get the APIs and you ask Claude to make the app, and it's like, well, there it is. Then it's like incredible. And then I was like, let's just make a Premiere plugin, and I made a Premiere plugin that like does all this like it basically takes like a talking head A roll and makes it like rounded corners and does like the motion.
Yeah, I did that with DaVinci because I use DaVinci, so I created like a.
For the last like 15 years, I've made a living like developing plugins for my
I didn't know that.
for Unreal Engine. Yeah, and I'd sell them, and they were like decent businesses. And now I look at them now, and I'm like, I just asked Codex or Claude, and it makes what would have been these would have been products I would have made my whole company around
And it would have
a
been
couple years
years to
ago.
put out in terms of branding and how do you put it out. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and now I'm like, and some of my audience like sees some of the stuff that they built. They're like, "Oh, you're gonna sell this? Is this gonna be available?" And I was like, "No, because anyone could make it." So it's happened so fast. It's just
People think I'm
absolutely
crazy.
wild.
At least people who are not in our world literally think I'm nuts for not having charged for that. Like my wife especially was like, "What are you doing?" My dad and the other family are like, "Wait, you created these things?" Even big producers who like I know I'm friends with were like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "Look, I think it's the right decision, but it was my decision. I would rather put it out there. People like it. Also, there's a lot less pressure when you put it out for free, right? Like if
For
I
sure,
put it out
yeah.
for money, it's like there's a legal liability, right? Number two, there's your name, and my name to me means everything, right? Like I don't want to put something out that's half baked. I'm charging people money, and then people are pissed, and I don't have the time to fix it, And I was like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I've lived this life. I've been like a software developer solo that puts out software and then supports it for.
Now,
an
would
amount
you,
of
when you
time.
gave that stuff or sold to Unreal, was that like a buyout or were you licensing it to them?
Well, I've had like many eras, but like for a while, I sold a Cinema 4D plugin that did really well. I've done stuff where it's on the Unreal Engine marketplace. They just buy it. I have apps and games that are on Steam, for
Okay.
instance. Like, so the movie Obsession, for instance, used one of my apps that's just on Steam to previs it. That film was apparently previs with one of my apps.
Oh, that's
It's
so
called-
cool. I know that Backrooms or whatever used Blender, but I didn't
Yeah, it
know that
wasn't Backrooms,
Obsession. I didn't know that Obsession had previs. That's so cool.
Yeah, their DP had used it because I was a DP. I made like kind of DP centric software. But yeah, it's been an interesting year. If it's like so recent, right? Like Fable and
Yeah.
Codex Soul, right? Now, but to be like, well, the software that I used to make, for a living, it's like we could basically with 3JS make that in like a day, more or less.
Right.
Maybe a week of like some revisions, and like we just make it now. And it's
I
like,
always do stuff simultaneously, so I think that just to come back to something you had asked and mentioned, you were like, "Oh, you weren't traditionally a developer." Let me try to come back to that though. Is while that is true, and I wasn't technically trained or went to school as an engineer, I always kind of say I was like a street engineer in the sense of ever since I was a little kid, I was taking things in ways they weren't supposed to go and making them work together, which basically was me showrunning and filmmaking. Sometimes when I had like hundreds of people that are working underneath me on a project, on like a massive commercial or whatever, all you're doing is problem solving. And if you try to solve it the traditional way or by paint by numbers or by the book, it won't happen. There's not like, that's why when some people are like explain the process or what does a director or producer do, you can kind of explain it, but you can't really, because part of it is, it's almost like a musician. Like you can't fully explain how somebody made a song because part of it's just this, yes, there's you need to know certain chords or whatever, but also part of it is just your own flow, right? And some people find it and some people don't. And for me, what I always would do is think outside the box. So I would be like, oh, I knew this one thing from tech here, and I knew this here. Maybe if I put that here, oh, and then it made me. And so to me, where I'm getting at is with AI and what you can do now, and with technology, it's the same. It really is the same thing. And if anything, especially with the AI agents that I've like custom kind of organized and stuff, it's the same as me with my crews. Like I would have multiple editors in a bay. I would have my DP and then our gaffer and our grip. I've separated all those things, right? And I have those same collaborations. And what I would do in the traditional is like I would go in the edit bay. I'm not in there all day, right? Like if we're on a show, on a TV show, you have like multiple editors, right? So like you'll go from one bay to the next bay, you check in, then you make a call to answer something with the production designer for what you're shooting in 2 days. Then the DP comes out, you go over some previs. That's basically what I'm doing just at home with AI. And yes, I'm not saying they're human, but like the concept of how you organize and talk and collaborate was the same. So while yes, you are correct, I wasn't technically a developer, I actually found it a really easy transition because I feel like the process behind it is actually the same.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I think AI, it's the CTO slash, it's just like CTPO or something. It's like CTO and Chief Product Officer. It's like the same role. I forget her name. I watched one of your interviews. And the trend overall, they talk a lot about is like the generalist. Someone who understands the entire picture is heavily enabled by AI because if you can delegate these tasks that are now being done, it's like that's the person who has the big picture view. So it's like showrunner to
directing or show running, that is that job that I did for 25 years. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you are, and I love my crew. Like I couldn't have done it without my crew, right? Like my
yeah,
DPs, like I was a DP geek, right? Like Conrad Hall, like all those Roger Deakins, like were like, they were like rock stars to me. But my
yeah,
point is I know enough and I know what my vision is, but then I need to work with them, right? And I feel like with this stuff, it's the same thing. It's like, yes, I don't know how to fully on my own code stuff. I learned enough to like kind of know when it's messing up or not. But yeah, you're working with it in the same way. You have really good specialists. You're a generalist who has an overall like 20,000 foot above, and then you're organizing the rest. And I feel like it's the same thing with AI.
yeah. It's the slash goal. You need to know what the goal is, and like what by whatever means. So it's kind of like showrunner to what would you say now? I like my role is technically creative technologist, which I kind of took from Adobe to some degree, and I think you use it as well. But like in the end, it's if you use AI or not, it's like you don't need to put AI in your name. Maybe in 2026, it's like that gets you some sort of recognition. But in the end, it's like you're still show running. You're
Or
still
it could
like,
hurt you. I don't
creative.
know. But yeah.
That is true. I'm interested because like I feel like as I'm looking for people to bring on the podcast from film who would even be on a generative AI podcast, generative media podcast, like how many people who you work with are openly out about using AI? I have like it's like from my industry, I have like two, and I know lots of people. I can name
Yeah,
like
I
two
mean, there's
people.
definitely, it's a very small percentage. But I think a lot more are secretly playing with stuff and enjoying, but aren't public. Now, I speak,
sure.
and it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. Like, I speak very freely about my feelings about stuff, right? And then I get a lot of hatred for it and stuff. Like, I'm not interested in getting into fights, but it's more of like, I'm not going to be ashamed and hide if I'm enjoying something. And like,
Yeah.
it's interesting because all week, like everybody's like, "You're a paid shill," and da-da-da. I'm like, dude, I wish Sam Altman was giving me a check. Like, I've gotten zero check. Like, what do you? I'm actually spending money to do this when I'm not making money. Like, it's not an easy moment, right? But the bigger thing is, I'm actually passionate about it. It is what it is. Like, and I do understand when people are upset about it or scared or whatever. But I'm just sharing something I'm actually passionate about, right? Whether it's popular, whether it's not. What I'm basically putting out there is this is making me excited again to be creative when I'd lost a fire and a spark. I will say that the few people who also had worked traditionally, who are in this space, literally say the same thing I am, which is it's the most fun I've had in years creatively.
I find that personally too. So like, for what got me into like wanting to be like creative, like make creative videos or images or whatever was like Blizzard, StarCraft 1, the video game, the cinematic, the game cinematic. It's like they're in the desert and they're driving a truck and they hit something and they get out and it's like an alien. They hit a Zergling. It's like a little monster. And then like all like the, original World of Warcraft cinematics and just like nerdy Lord of the Rings type RPG content, right? I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to make that kind of stuff. And then, this is back in like, I don't know, the year. Whenever I was little, I was like, you need a computer. And then you need to have like, I had like the original Alias Maya. And it's like, this is really slow and terrible. And,
Correct.
and I'm never going to be able to make, but I followed that through line. I was like, I went into film because that was a little easier into like real time. But like now finally, it's like, oh, I could actually make that. And that is just like, so empowering, even coming from traditional and coming from 3D, it's like, yeah, just me with some money given to C-Dance, we could, or H3, or whoever, it's like, we can make this now, so it's especially animation. I can't imagine the floodgates eventually. Like, do you think we'll ever get to it seems likely that it's like, are we going to get to the point where we can have like, let's just like conservatively say like a weekly animation show that's like forever? Like, because like animation typically
Yes.
takes like so long.
This
It's
is
like,
my opinion. I mean, look, who knows the future, but
yeah.
I feel things are going to happen a lot faster than we probably think. So, for example, I'm friends with a guy named Josh Dawes. I don't know if you know him on X. Have you seen?
Yeah, I've seen him. Yeah, yeah.
Does this Mary Sue animated short? They're really good. He just released, I think, a new episode today. I haven't checked it out. I'm excited to see
Oh,
it.
the animated one. Yeah, I saw that go viral when he first put it out. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's really good. And he's a really good storyteller. What I've been kind of explaining to people is there's two parts. There's when is the quality good enough to catch the audience? Then there's the political part of it, right? the people not willing to accept. Okay, that I can't get
Yeah.
into because I have no control over that, and that's going to play out. I do think it's going to shift. But
Yeah.
when you talk about the technical part of it, I truly believe we're actually there. We're not there fully where like you can make the kind of feature films consistently that I think we'd want to make. You can make technically a feature film. They are putting out some. But I think in terms of shorter form, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Like I'm releasing, by the way, what I was just finishing, I literally just finished color and sound on a 10-minute short film that I'm going to release in like a week and a half or 2 weeks. And it's like a massive project, like over a month and a half, 7 days a week, like 4 hours of sleep a night working on it, right?
This is a personal project or something?
It's a personal project, but that I was doing. Flick, which is one of the companies, had a filmmaker residency. They asked me to join that. This is a film I was making as part of that, but it's my film.
Cool.
And so that was kind of the inspiration for me to, okay, I have a deadline, I got to make it. But I was wanting to do a bigger project and really push myself, which I did like beyond on this one. Like this one has like, it's like emotion and fight sequences and chase sequences and like, it has like, I think 487 picture cuts in it and like 13 layers of audio. Like I just kind of was like, let me make this as hard as possible for myself. But my point with that is I do think we technically can make things that are good enough that could have an ongoing series. Now, how many people have the ability or understanding to do that yet is less. How much of the audience in the world knows that that can be good enough to do? Not many. So I think that has to converge. I do think we will see within the next year and 6 months a few projects that really hit, whether they're animation or some live action, whether they're short form or not, where it's almost like IP, like you will have a Mickey Mouse or something or a Blue's Clues, but is AI native, and people aren't going to care if it's engaging. And one thing just to share is I've been telling people the way I look at it is at the end of the day, people don't, I'm not saying everybody, but majority of audience doesn't care how something is made. I just do believe that. I don't think in music they care whether Daft Punk used a beat machine or electronic or this or that. They want to feel something. So when you're watching a movie or TV show, do you laugh? Do you cry? Are you on the edge of your seat in suspense? Right? Are you scared? If you can do that, it doesn't matter what tool you use to do it. That's going to be better than 90% of what's being put out there by Hollywood. The audience will come. That's kind of where I'm getting at is I think that with the right storytellers, you can do that now. And I think that the audience will start to, kind of like with electronic music, when it first maybe happened, people were like, oh, that's not a real instrument. But like if you listen to Daft Punk now, while you're listening, are you going, that's a fake music? You're not. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now you may know it, but it becomes subconscious because you're just listening to music. I think it's going to be the same thing with film and storytelling is as long as it's not shit, right? Like if it is compelling of any of the ways I said, you're going to forget the word AI will get removed, just like CGI got removed. Or, movies didn't used to have sound. Like there weren't things called talkies. Okay, you get what I'm saying? Is I think and my belief is 6 months from now will be a big jump. A year from now, and by 2 years from now, I don't think we're saying AI film. I think it's just going to be part of things, just like Pixar was part of animation at that point.
Yeah, 2 years is wild to think about how far that'll be. Yeah, we still haven't had like the I don't think, right, like the singularity for like generative AI for like movies and TV, but it is surely coming. What was it for where it's like, oh, it's like a breakout. What doesn't need to have an Oscar, but it's kind of like, I don't know, like what was it like? What was the 3D moment? Like, was it Toy Story? I don't even remember. Was it like Toy Story?
For that level of like high end animation through computers with lighting was Toy Story through Pixar.
Yeah, and I remember hearing, I wasn't aware of this at the time, but I remember hearing that, like, I'm paraphrasing and getting it wrong, rewriting history, but like that I heard that like when they started Pixar, that like, a lot of people were against it, going into 3D and it's not 2D animation, they were against it. And people look at Pixar now as like, like the pylon of, North Star of 3D animation, so but like that seems like we're on the precipice of that. Like that is coming, and it'll be very interesting to see like who pulls it off, because like really it could be anybody at this point.
The reason Toy Story works is because it was a good story and there were really interesting characters. And then like for CGI, I believe some of the early ones that really pushed CGI in, was Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park, both of
Right.
which use, I don't know if you know, a company used to exist called Silicon Graphics, but they were like the best at CGI back then. Before that, people were really thought it was crap, were against it. Terminator 2 comes out, Jurassic Park comes out. Those are also just, forget CGI, they're good movies. They're like
Right.
awesome worlds and stories. So again, I feel that with AI is, as long as it's a story or a character that is great, then that will be when we break through, is because it's going to make certain audience members go, do I care that it's AI? Because I got to admit, I laughed pretty hard, and I haven't laughed at any of the traditional things. And so, people at the end of the day want to feel something and be engaged. And if if you can't get them in one way, if you're coming with AI and you catch them in that, they're going to then subscribe. Now, there will always be haters, like, for sure. But I think that that's going to get drowned out, is my guess.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. I mean, this is what I'm sitting back and watching. I feel like I'm trying to have some part in it, but yeah, TV, animation, film, games. We won't even talk about like the game side of it, but yeah, I think I see a similar thing. So you don't want to talk about the Rick Rubin tweet? We cannot talk about it. I mean,
we can. I just don't want to get in detail because it's like it's a complicated thing and like quick soundbite. I don't know if that's what I want to do. I will just say this is like something that I wrote. I empathize and understand people's fear. I too have that fear, right?
Yes.
Or at least did more so.
Yeah.
About AI, about job loss. I'll be honest. My jobs hadn't been great for the last few. Like nobody who traditionally was working in Hollywood, I'm sure you know this, has had a great few years. It's been horrible, and that's not because of AI. That's before AI stuff happened. And my point is of course, do I want to be out of work or money? No. Do I want anybody else to? No. What I will say is, for me, I've learned a lot from the things that have come so far that I hated on and I jumped too quick. One was, for example, YouTube. And I'm not saying I like YouTube for me in terms of like social media influence. That was never something like I watch all the time, but I was wrong to think it wouldn't stick. I was utterly wrong. Okay. I thought short form stuff wouldn't work.
Yep.
Wrong. I thought digital wouldn't stick. Like I was a big film guy. I was like, only 35 millimeter. Pretty wrong on that, right? Like my point is at the end of the day, I've seen trends enough. I was against the iPhone when it first came out. I love the iPhone. Like I literally was like, I have a BlackBerry. Fuck the iPhone. Like, and even before BlackBerry, I was like, I just want a phone to be a phone. Why do I need it to be my computer? I now look back, I'm like, that's kind of a dumb comment from my side. But my point is until you use something, I think you don't know if it can be useful for you. And that's been my experience with AI is the more time I have spent with AI, the less afraid I am of AI in terms of job loss. Now, there will be job loss. I'm not saying that. But I do think there will be new jobs. Like anybody who's using AI all the time, like me, has been working harder and has been busier than they were prior to AI, not the opposite. So that's all I'm saying is like with the Rick Rubin thing, I'm never going to be able to convince somebody who is wanting to respond with death threats, right? Like that's not a conversation you can have there. They feel how they feel. I'm not taking away where their anger is coming from. I don't agree that that's the right approach to try to accomplish anything. But I also think a lot of it's misunderstood, I think that I've seen more creators and creatives have an opportunity to work again, to make money, to get their creative soul out there when they otherwise wouldn't because of AI, not the other way around. So that's I think all I'll say on it is complicated. I'm not taking away the fears or some of that real, but I do not think it's black and white. And I think there's a hell of a lot of positive where I do believe that a kid anywhere right now could become the next P.T. Anderson or Tarantino that otherwise percentage chance would have had probably no shot at that happening and will be the new voices for us. I do believe that, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I think because I was in like the virtual production era where it was like, real-time rendering, like it was like it was like almost AI. It was like, rendering is faster now, it's a little bit cheaper, but you still had to animate it. But like, it was like there's always the thought, it's like the next Cameron in the garage, right? The next James Cameron makes this movie in the garage. But like, virtual production wasn't quite that accessible. You still needed a lot of people and cameras and whatnot. But AI really is that. It's, the same similar for like digital music. It used to be like, oh, you for it to sound reasonable, you need like a huge studio and actual instruments, and then synthesizers come out and blah blah blah. It's like much easier. Now music is much different. So I'm interested in like I see it as like job transformation, and I love the part where you were talking about the things that you were like wrong on technology. Like my wife, this is my lore. I got the original iPhone. I was in New York City freelancing, and I got the iPhone, and I was like, "Yep, at the first one."
Oh my god, I was making fun of everybody, and then I got it. Yeah.
My now wife and her whole family was like, "What is that thing? You don't need that." But like for me,
and a touch screen, like why you want buttons? Like why are there no buttons?
I was a freelance DP in New York City, and I was getting all my work from Craigslist and Mandy.com, job listing websites. And so I would have my phone on set, and I'd be responding to job things. But it's like before that, you had to, maybe a BlackBerry could have done, but like you had to go home.
BlackBerry, it was hard. I mean, it was not as easy to use. And the truth is, you probably then got more work, had more money in your pocket than you would have had otherwise by taking on that technology.
Yeah, I mean, my whole career has been saying yes to technology early, and because I feel like when you're a young person too coming up, it's like you have to be the disruptor. You can't, like, if you try to play the game that exists today, you can't. It's hard to get in.
Young person coming up, I decided to be the dinosaur, to be like, I'm gonna be like Scorsese or whatever, and like be like just a pure. Which, to be honest, Scorsese is even now backing AI, but like,
yeah, he did the Black.
My point is, before I was wrong on that stuff, and where it got me from a very humble place is, I lost chances for me to create. When I look back on it, what did I gain? All I gained was isolating myself, not being humble and pissing people off because I was just rude and wrong. And in the meantime, I wasn't on set because I probably could have taken opportunities that I thought were lesser than. But as you know, something may be lesser than in the way you think, but truthfully, it's all a path towards something. And like sometimes that like small little project may be where you meet your DP and then you make this awesome, and it's like if you're not open to those things and that process, I feel like you won't get there. So long story short, this time around with AI, I was like, I'm not going to make that same mistake again. I'm not going to just go and complain about something. If there are things I'm worried about with AI, what can I do to solve it for myself to make it a positive instead of a negative? If I'm worried about AI taking jobs, how can I use AI to make sure I can get a job? And I was like, because I'm not going to stop it. I can't stop that train. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone will eventually. Well, I'd say that the majority of people who continue to work in the creative field will come to some spec gradient of that, right? That maybe I feel like you can't be like actually full purist anti-AI and still work in even any form of production at this point. Like I don't know how like there's like
you just
like,
can be more efficient. I mean, even in terms of getting ideas out. So for example, I was thinking about it and I was like, when a director works with a composer, right? I can't make music the way a composer. That's why I have the composer, right? Now I may have stuff play in my head, but until you've had many years of learning that language, I remember on the first bigger film I did, I was having a really hard time explaining. I didn't know the verbiage to you, and I was like, so the best thing I can do is be like, it sounds like that, but then sounds like this, but then, right? And it's kind of, and I feel like that's where AI can be really helpful is me, for example, as a director, or if you're a writer, or say you're a production designer and you can't communicate what you wanted to the director, well, you can basically build that tonight and really see it. You may then still go build it in real life. But like it can just help to get multiple people on that same page to see something that you otherwise wouldn't have seen, So
I've had a couple calls with directors who I cannot disclose who they are, but they're around, and I think that like what you're saying is like it is like kind of an ultimate previs if you want. That's like when they're at the spaghetti, like these directors and yourself included, I'm sure have like all these ideas. It's like, but which one of these are worth executing? I think for a lot of them, based on some of the calls I've had, is like, let's just visualize it like instantly. It's like I have this like 1-page outline. Is it good enough to make a thing? Well, let's have some system that very quickly visualizes it, makes some sort of mock-up. It's like they're not going to ship that, but it's enough to sit back in it with a bunch of people and be like, that's crap, we don't want to do that.
And
or
maybe
like,
get into production quicker and have new jobs and more jobs and a better film sooner. I feel like a lot of what I experienced for over a quarter century in the traditional side is that the speed at which things go just by the business and the way it works kills creativity. When you're developing a movie for 5 or 6 years and financing falls out and then a new studio hit, by the 7 year 7, even if you get to make it, like, you're not at the same place. It's not ideal, right? Like, when you have a creative spark, what I do love about AI is if I have an idea this morning that's crazy, I can just jump on it now. Say, Matt, you and I are going to collaborate. We're like on and we're just going. We're not like, okay, how do we put the pitch deck together and take a meeting that takes 3 months and meet with William Morris, and then William Morris takes 6 months to wait, and then and then you're just burned out and you don't have it. And I feel like part of when it comes to creative things is speed from spark to getting it out there, and I think that's part of it too.
Yeah, plus in distribution as well. Like, it's hard to say. Well, I guess we've watched the creator economy with like YouTube and TikTok, and like what the long term of that is as a creative career is still yet to be determined. It seemed pretty well from the Obsession and Backrooms directors are both like former YouTubers, but like, yeah.
Right, but if people had said that 10 years ago, they would have laughed at you. If you said 2 of the biggest movies that are going to open are kids from YouTube, it just shows to. Everybody would have laughed at that comment. It would have been like, you're a crazy person.
Yeah. Or believe that a Mr. Beast or something that's like bigger than some of the other studios could exist, from that ecosystem.
Or nobody would have believed that Netflix would almost buy Paramount when Netflix was just starting to ship DVDs.
Yeah, or Amazon was shipping physical books, right?
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying is I think I've learned enough how many times I've been stubborn and wrong to at least be more open. And that's how I've approached this from the beginning.
Yeah, I feel like I've been fairly on top of like new technology, but I remember, I feel like I'm late to AI, but once I got it, I was like,
dude, you're still early.
I can't be late. That's good. I feel better. But I was like,
if you're
I can't
on X,
be late.
You don't feel that, but if you've seen those charts, like I think like 0.01% of the world is using AI agents. Like that's not much. I'll be honest with you. Almost everybody in the real world who I talk to has no idea what I'm talking about still.
Good. That's our moat for that's our moat.
But yes, but I still think it's early enough. It's not you're not late.
I just remember, so like you've had these like kind of past experiences where like you were like, technology denier or whatever, however you want to say it. And I have the same thing, like, cause like right before I like embraced AI, I was working in 3D animation, like, motion capture was my specialty. But the second Kling 2 point something came out and I saw like the video motion transfer, I was like, oh boy. I was like, that is more efficient, more accessible way of doing like animation, to control animation. I was like, oh boy. And so like I had all the feelings that everyone has. I was like, what have I done for the last 10 years?
You have an aha moment, right? Like it's like,
yeah, but in the scary way. And like I was, against it in the beginning. I was like, oh no, this. So I've had all the feelings that I sympathize with all the anti-AI sentiments because I've felt them, and it was like 6 months ago. Wasn't that long ago?
Am I correct? Can I just ask you a question?
Yeah.
Am I correct that the more time you spent with it, the less afraid you felt?
Yeah, it wasn't. Well,
or sorry, the less upset. Like, did you? Meaning, whatever your initial feeling was, did it come around because then you actually got to know? It's kind of like feeling something about somebody who you've never had dinner with or been to their house or seen them with their family. You don't really know them.
Yeah, it's like it's hard to hate up close or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some phrase like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in my case, I think I wasn't like afraid of AI. I was just like, oh, there's a new way of doing what I like. There's a new way of getting done, making the images I used to make.
Yeah.
And it's like in so many ways better, faster, and cheaper. It's like I was like, this is kind of like a moment. And so like, you were early to AI. It's like my lesson for myself right now, as I'm like 40 right now or 41, something like that, somewhere around.
I'm older than you.
Oh, awesome. Nice. We're the film elder. We remember the film days, but it's like, I just know the next era. I was like, I just don't want to be behind. I was like, I don't want to be behind again. And I was just like, because I've been like reasonably on time, but with the AI thing, I was like, so like when the next thing comes, like I put it on, like I said, it's like there'll be something that disrupts traditional AI soon enough, right?
I think AI agents did that a little bit, I feel like, and local models I think are going to do that, so I think that's changing things a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, but so as I've enjoyed this a lot. So like, what is interesting and exciting to you like today? Like what what's like kind of your North Star that you're like, that's like, this is what I'm kind of like working towards. If you have any sort of, even if it's like very hand wavy and,
Yeah, I mean, I think with this stuff, it has to be kind of hand wavy. Like if you're not in this world, and I get it. Like I have certain family, people are like, well, what are you exactly doing with it? And it's like, if I can answer that quickly, whatever, I'm pretty certain that's not the good answer that would be good for my life. Because this stuff, when it's moving this fast, you don't want to just be making no decisions and no commits, right? But you also want to be open enough to find your path. And I think that for me, what I'm most excited about is to get a few hours of sleep. But that's only because I've been working on these projects nonstop, like literally
sleep when you're
4
dead.
hours. I know, I'm dead. But I think what I'm most excited about is potentially, I think on a more macro level, what I'm most excited about is being able to every single day feel like I don't have to do paint by numbers, that I can solve a problem, which is what I like doing outside the box, and find a home for that, whether that is with filmmaking, whether that is through kind of software app stuff or AI agents. I like waking up and being excited to do something that I have a perfect mixture of not knowing how to solve it, but wanting to solve it and believing I have enough that I've gone through that I'll be able to solve it. That gets me excited. If every day when I go to do something and I know exactly how to do it, I get really bored and actually the days go slower, right?
Yeah.
Now, if it's something where you're in so over your head, that also isn't fun. But that middle area is kind of what I feel AI has unlocked for me. That's on a macro level. It's like I want to keep being able to wake up to make sure that I keep pushing myself. That if something scares me, I try it. I don't just get comfortable. And I think any good filmmaker should be humble in that way, and is too, and always be like, you're still learning. You're never like good enough. Like you always hate something you did just enough that you want to do something better the next time. And I always want that fire. In a more specific way, I'm really figuring that out right now. And I've already gone through a few iterations. Like I was going to build this platform and like had applied to like Y Combinator and like A16Z and stuff.
Nice.
And I do believe in the platform I was going to build. I don't think it was the smartest probably next move either for me or to compete against some pre-existing things. What I will say is that the more that I went away from storytelling, creativity, filmmaking with AI, like when I was purely just doing like AI agent stuff that had nothing to do with that, the more either people or the tech itself like brought me back in. Like I almost liken it to like Godfather 2, there was like a line like, whenever I try to leave the family, like they pull me back in. You know, it's like you can't get away from the mafia. And I feel like in my heart, I'm always going to be a storyteller and a creative, right? And I want to find that perfect intersection that I'm trying to find that also can, provide a living and also has me excited each day. That isn't the traditional way I was making films, because I'm not so interested in doing my traditional career the way I was. But it's almost an intersection between that and tech and software, and whatever that is, whether that's like that I'm part of a new studio, but that also has some tech to it, or I've been meeting with a lot of other amazing creators and like trying to figure out how to protect IP and like do a collective of filmmakers to put stuff out. But I want to still be creative in those ways, but also be perfectly still working with AI agents and the more tech stuff, not just in terms of the generative media, but on the whole, because I'm really loving both. And it's just finding how can I intersect both and find a need. I don't have that answer right now. If you come up with an answer, call me, because I need to figure it out.
I think we have recreated or described the creative technologist role from First Principles.
Exactly. And I think part of it is finding the right partner or company or thing where it's the right fit, and part of this is, I think the skills that I have right now and the things I want to do are not necessarily definable in a classic resume or job posting. It kind of takes both a person who has this weird amalgamation like I do of skills and talent, and somebody either at a company or a partner who is able to connect those dots to be able to find that. And that's where it's difficult but exciting.
Well, I think that's why it's so good to share online. I think showing agency
only way,
and initiative. Yeah, like
especially if you're not in San Francisco. Like I'm not from the Silicon Valley world. Like it was really, I'll be honest, it was terrifying for me, and it still is, but like less so. But when I first, a few
What was
years
terrifying?
ago,
What was terrifying?
well, I decided I'm going to shift from traditional film and I'm going to go into tech. I have always loved tech. I've always been kind of playing on the side, but I don't have a Rolodex like I do of Hollywood. Like I don't know all the players in and out, and I can get that. They have no clue who I am, right? Me saying what I had done doesn't mean anything necessarily to them, right?
Right.
And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to find a way. And what I kind of compared it to was trying to get into film and actually make a living from it is near impossible. Now, I never got to I wanted to do like Scorsese or Spielberg, Yeah, I didn't do that, and most never do. But the truth is, I was able to, for many years, stay afloat while creating professionally. I'm proud of that, right? That was really hard, but it didn't happen by accident. It was like many years of forcing myself to meet people when I knew nobody. I was like, let me intern for years. Let me get coffee for people and love it. And you just kind of, you get dinner with that person who maybe isn't helpful. You have this podcast that maybe we become friends and it helps, And so I approached AI in the same way in tech, which was, I'm not in Silicon Valley. I don't know any of them. They don't know me. And I'm older than most would who are starting out, eating top ramen and doing that. So I was like, I got to get on X. I wasn't even on X before that. Like literally 5 months ago, I wasn't on X. Like I never.
Really? Wow.
Or
Your
Twitter.
come up on X was
I
exponential.
worked my ass on it, but I basically was like, for a couple weeks, I mean, I had like 4 followers, 2 I knew in real life, 2 I didn't. And I'm like posting nonstop. And I'm like, after a week, I'm like, I feel like a crazy person because nobody's reading. And I'm like, what kind of ego do you have to like, and I'm like, I need to do what I did with Hollywood, which was believe that I will land somewhere if I'm passionate enough and I work hard enough. And then I would meet somebody, I would be friendly, and then I would share what I was excited about, and then I'd make something new and try something, and then do those softwares. And not saying I've like made it or anything, but I definitely have more of a community, than I used to. But if I hadn't been online, I don't think I could have been making this transition because I'm not in San Francisco. So it's like, how are you going to connect with those people?
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of just had to like put myself out there and be like, I'm not going anywhere. I love this. I know you don't think I've done anything, but I'm going to show you that I can, and I'm going to have a place here. Please welcome me,
Yeah, that's what I like about, one of the things I like about AI and in multiple facets from development to generative like films or something like that is that like we're in the era of show me what you've built,
It's the
show
Wild
me what you
West.
can do. It's like
you can't wait for somebody else.
Yeah, and like coming from 3D, I still think AI filmmaking and filmmaking in general, when AI is involved, is still going to be a group activity. It's better with more people.
I agree fully. And the truth is, just real quick, I don't mean to cut you off, but a lot of people I've been talking to recently are like, oh, well, you're just going to make something on your own and not want to hire people. And actually, for me and a lot of the best creators who like we're in private group chats and talk, none of us want that. If anything, we're not hiring some other people because we can't pay for it ourselves right now. But the truth is, if I had a budget on the movie that I'm just finishing, 100% I would have hired some voice actors. I may have done some hybrid with some real actors. I would have hired an editor. I want to have those. So yeah, I'm not sure that's exactly true. I think that you still will be better doing that, but that takes money.
What I was saying before, I agree with all of those things, is that like when it was so hard to produce movies, animation, etc., games, which I was doing recently, it's like you require specialists, and then the specialists only know this small part of the process, which is great. It's great to have crew and technicians. I've been that person. I've had that career, so I know what that's like. But when it comes to like specifically like AI filmmaking, I was like, well, just talk to Seed Dance and show me what you got. Because like you would think that like, like taking the AI hater perspective is like, oh, it's just an average of like all the images that have ever been made and everyone's work's going to look the same. That is not true. And it's amazing to me still that it's like, you can just take like a group of creatives and give them all the same exact video and image model. And they come out with completely different things, and you can just tell immediately, or at least I feel like I can. I was like, if they're good or not, and they need to keep working and progressing. It's like there's levels to it, even if we have the same pencil. It's not exactly that, but it's
No, but
I like the era of just shut up and show me your work. It's like show me your last film.
But it is that. I mean, how many? Yeah, it's not the best comparison, but like how many Timbalands or Dr. Dre's are there with like a beat machine? Like I can't do that. But like, and it's not a one-off. Like, how many of those people had like nonstop? We were like, that's a banger. That's amazing. That's amazing, because they just had something with that tool. Now I have that same pencil. Maybe I get lucky once, right? Maybe. but not 20 out of 20 times. And so I do think it is similar in that way of like, I've been telling people recently, if you think it's so easy and just a button push, I'm not saying this to be an asshole. I'm saying this to like actually so we can have a real conversation. Go try to do it. Go make a 10-minute movie right now. Tell me how easy it is and how good it is. Because I'm going to promise you that anybody who's made anything that's longer than a 10-second thing, that's decent at had to work pretty hard at it. It was not easy.
Yeah, and then the second part of it is like, say even the synthesis is that easier. It is certainly easier. Marketing's not easy. Getting someone to watch it, getting your family members to even watch it is tricky, but let alone to get like an audience that would pay for it, you know. So that's why they say like it's like, you know, in AI is like distribution's the moat. Is the moat. It's not the product anymore.
I agree with that fully. And I think something I'd never thought about that I've been hearing, like I heard Andreessen Horowitz talk about and some others is like build your audience before your product sometimes, which is a really weird and interesting way to think about it. Obviously you can't always do that, but it does start to make sense to me. It's like you look at a Mr. Beast, you look at all these things, and it's like you have a distribution platform. So even if you want to go into a fully parallel thing, it's like I have an app, right? Like I built those things. Who am I going to with that? How am I getting that out there? I'm not, because I have to then go to a traditional stream, which takes time and advertising and whatever. But if you have 1 million followers, you could launch something tomorrow. And I think that is much more important in today's world where a lot of people can create. It's who can get it to the most people sooner, because somebody else could have made something better, but if they can't get it out there, it doesn't exist.
Social media was not a bad investment on my part. It's been paying off. But yeah, distribution, man. Like it's been a fun journey. I'm super looking forward to the next. Like almost every week has just been like so exciting.
And are you full time with FAL?
Yeah, I work full time at Fall.
Or Fall? Okay, Fall.
Yeah, but people say it both ways. Yeah, and it's like, you know, for me, you know, I get access to every model and ones that aren't out yet, and
that's exciting.
More or less infinite credits and like codecs and Claude code, and now you can do it in Ultra code and build things and learn. It's been like an incredible experience. And then, you know, now I'm just trying to like make it, I don't know, human. Like I try to show good examples of AI where it's like, this is good, right? It's like, this is a fun, creative thing that we can do now that we couldn't do before.
Like I saw that somebody released you as a rapper.
There's a lot of things that happened. Did that happen? Yeah,
somebody put out a video of you rapping. I guess you posted. It was so funny.
There's lots of things that happen. Yeah,
really?
I put out one. Other people have made ones of me and whatnot. This happens. It's like if you have someone's headshot, you can make them in one of your actors now. That can happen. But yeah, it's been very fun, man. So let's kind of wrapping this up now. It's like so like where can people best find you? You know, like what's like I think X is a big one, right? Like where are your main outlets to end this?
And I think some of that's developing because traditionally, and it was I think a misstep of mine, but I never was focused on social media. I said no for like 20 years with people. Like yes, I had like an Instagram, but it was like private and like just for friends or something. Or same thing with Facebook. Right. I never did Twitter or X literally until like 5 months ago. LinkedIn, I never really spent time on. And so where can you find me now? I would say that Sam J. Wasserman is my handle at X. That would be a good way to see. I mean, I'm posting all the time. Anything I'm excited about, anything I'm questioning, anything I'm working on, I'm posting on there. I do have a LinkedIn. I need to be more active with it. I just haven't. I should. But also I have a WassermanProductions.com website. Is a good place as well. So I would say those two, between X and WassermanProductions.com, I think you'll be able to find me.
Well, awesome. I recommend X. That's where I
found you. Or on GitHub
you.
if you want to have a lot of free apps that I put out that honestly will help you. Like there's still so many times that people are like, I wish somebody could do that. I'm like, oh, I already built that. Like, go try it. And they're like, oh, really?
Yeah, man. That's the era I found you in. That was incredible. I was doing Fable maxing as well, and it's really cool. So I recommend everyone check you out on X because like that's where the stream of information is coming from, and I think that's where you can find.
Sam J. Wasserman is the handle.
Yeah, and you can find your links to the GitHub and whatnot there. And dude, appreciate you coming on the podcast. I'm looking forward to seeing what you build next.
I really appreciate it. I've been following you and a big fan of what you put. Clearly, you can see that you're genuine and honest and passionate too, and really a creative at heart as well. And so I'm honored that you asked me to come on. So I appreciate it.
Wow. So that wraps it up with our talk with Sam Wasserman. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. This is the second fall podcast, and I'm really trying to base it in the beginning right now on people that have traditional film design animation backgrounds and were exploring together, myself included, and hopefully you, the listener, we're all exploring what it means to enter this new era, to see work transform, to see new tools, new processes, and of course, a fair amount of controversy. I don't want to focus on the controversy, but it's sort of impossible to ignore. But I don't want that to be the focus of what we're doing. We want to find the good. We want to find the path forward through this. That's what I want from it. And I feel like I learned a lot from Sam, listening to him speak about his personal journey and his North Star. And this helps me a lot. It's really easy to kind of want to pull away and not engage with it. That's easy. I would love to, and some days I would love to do that. But as a creative, I do want to find the way forward. And I'm doing that by talking to other people, not GPT. So that wraps it up for this episode. Thanks so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you on the next one.